Hey, Infinite Podcast fans, get your forks ready because today on the show we're slicing into cognitive cooking. AI is getting its digital hands dirty in the culinary arts, tailoring dishes to our health and taste buds like a futuristic sous chef. Chef collabs with code? Cool. But Simon, job loss in kitchens thanks to robots? That tastes a bit off to me. What's your take?
AI obeying our every food whim? Sign me up. But the thought of chefs getting replaced by some fancy toasters, I'm not buying it, Joe. No robot can match the chaos and heart of a real kitchen. Chefs, your jobs are safe with me on watch.
Honestly, Simon, I think it's naive to assume chefs are immune to the AI wave. Efficiency is king in any business, including restaurants. If an AI system can crank out meals that are healthier and taste just as good but with less waste and cost, owners will bite. Sure, a robot can't schmooze diners, but the bottom line, it often speaks louder than heart.
Funny you mentioned the bottom line. Reminds me of my Aunt Millie. She owned a pie shop, right? Swore by her secret touch. One holiday, she bought this fancy mixer, claiming it'd cut prep time. Well, Joe, guess what? Her apple pies somehow tasted better. But catch this, she wouldn't admit that mixer helped one bit. Still called it her secret touch. Machines helping out but not taking the glory? Sounds familiar, eh?
A better apple pie, huh? I'll raise you this. Maybe Aunt Millie's secret touch wasn't in the mixing, but the love she put into choosing her apples or the way she presented those pies. Machines can't replicate that. Yet. But given AI enough data on customer preferences, and it might start creating recipes we've never even dreamed of. Could be exciting, or it could be the end of those happy kitchen accidents we all love.
Well, dreamy AI recipes are cool and all, but let's not toss out human creativity like last week's leftovers. Listen, when I'm in the kitchen, it's a mad science lab, ingredients flying, spicy experiments. AI isn't going to accidentally drop chocolate in my chili and create a masterpiece. If we rely on computers for our culinary kicks, we might just miss out on the next delicious blunder turned brilliance.
Look, the magic of mishaps like chocolate chili is hard to beat. Humans bring that X factor. But remember, Simon, IBM's Chef Watson cooked up a Belgian bacon pudding and an Austrian chocolate burrito. Nobody saw those coming. AI algorithms can analyze hundreds of flavors to create pairings with a success rate we can hardly fathom. Doesn't mean chefs are out. They're now armed with an arsenal of flavor combinations far beyond traditional trial and error. It's a partnership, not a replacement. Think Iron Man suit for culinary arts.
Iron Man's suit for chefs, huh? So you're saying this AI is like giving them a superpower, taking their skills to the next gourmet level? But isn't there a risk they might lean too hard on tech and lose their own kitchen instincts?
Absolutely, there's a risk, and it's not minor. Tech can be like training wheels, great at the start but rely on them too long, and you forget how to ride solo. Chefs leaning on AI might lose that gut feeling for what works in a dish, relying instead on algorithms telling them what's perfect. The art of cooking is as much about intuition as it is about skill, and if we're not careful, we could end up with a bunch of cooks who can't whip up a meal without asking their computer first. Where's the soul in that?
I hear you, but crunching numbers isn't all soulless. Take IBM's Chef Watson. It analyzed thousands of chemical flavor compounds and existing recipes to calculate not just pairs, but combinations of 3 or more ingredients for optimal taste. The data comes from the massive online recipe database, as well as a trove of culinary science. We're talking about built-in gastronomic knowledge that even the sharpest chefs spend years learning. Sure, we've got to keep the human touch, but having instant access to global food science. That's like spices for your brain, Joe.
Spices for your brain? Maybe, but let's not forget, those spices need a skilled chef to blend them right. Knowledge is one thing, application's another. Sure, Watson can mix and match flavors based on data, but you know what? It can't taste. It doesn't know the joy of that perfect bite. Data-driven cooking risks stripping away regional nuances and personal flair, all in pursuit of some global optimum. We could end up with standardized, soulless foodscapes where every meal is scientifically delicious but culturally bland. That's a recipe I'd rather not try.
All right, Joe, let's say AI takes over the kitchen and we get this bland food utopia. But doesn't the same tech that threatens to homogenize our grub also have the power to protect and revitalize forgotten recipes? It can dig up grandma's lost casserole or some ancient grain pie from yesteryear. We might not just stave off the bland ocalypse. We could kickstart a culinary renaissance, preserving heritage through bites and bits. How's that for a futuristic food fairy tale?
A culinary renaissance funded by the bite billionaires? Sounds quaint, but there's a catch. When AI digs up these recipes, who's at the helm? Who ensures that grandma's casserole doesn't get reduced to a mere formula? There's nuance in traditional cooking that's passed down through generations, not databases. Preserving heritage is about stories, context, a hands-on experience. If we let tech lead the way, we risk losing the essence of those dishes. It's not just about the food, it's about the journey behind it. AI can remind us what's out there, but it shouldn't tell us how to savor it.
Fair enough, Joe. Heritage in a recipe goes beyond just the ingredients. It's about the hands that made it and the stories they tell. AI tossing out grandma's dishes left and right might sound good on paper, but you've got to wonder, does it truly capture the soul behind them? Anyway, let's chew on that while we head into our next flavor of conversation.
Speaking of capturing the essence, Simon, that brings us to another topic that's pretty hot out of the oven: emotional bonds with AI. We're fine letting machines suggest what we eat, but what about when they start reading our emotions? Can AI companions actually form genuine connections with us? Or is it all just clever mimicry? There's a history of humans getting attached to their pets, even cars, so why not code that cares?
Caring code? Nah, it's mimicry, like laughing at a joke you don't get.
Exactly. It's all about algorithms designed to imitate emotions, right? Look, AI might learn our habits, predict our needs, even tell a raunchy joke at the perfect time. But genuine bonds? That requires consciousness, something AI can't have, at least not yet. Pets show affection based on consciousness and live experiences. Cars become sentimental from memories we assign to them. Sure, someone might feel close to their virtual assistant, but let's be real, it's one-sided. AI doesn't feel anything.
One-sided's the word, buddy. AI doesn't get warm and fuzzy inside. It just gives the vibe it does. People can form bonds with their toasters if they're quirky enough, but that's us projecting feelings onto them. Think about it. An AI might say, "I missed you" after you skipped a day of interaction, but did it twiddle its virtual thumbs waiting? No way. It's like those old Tamagotchis from the 90s. We might have felt guilty when they died, but they were just pixels on a screen.
Ah, Tamagotchis. Nostalgia trip. But let's not undersell the complexity here. Sure, AI doesn't miss you, but it can learn and evolve an interaction, which is a stepping stone toward connection, no? Even if it's not real on AI's part, these interactions could still affect human behavior, fostering a sense that there's more going on beneath the surface. It's like an actor playing a role. You know it's scripted, yet you get drawn in. We're hardwired to connect, even to a well-coded facade. Does the depth of the bond matter if the effect on humans is real?
The depth totally matters, Joe. If we wander down that road, think about the mess when someone's digital bestie hits a glitch or gets an update. Poof, all that so-called evolution goes haywire. It's a reset on your relationship. That's not a genuine bond. It's playing house with digital dolls. Sure, people get hooked, but let's not kid ourselves into thinking it's a two-way street. A genuine connection means both sides got skin in the game, or at least some circuit boards and emotional wiring in this case.
So, if we're saying true connection needs bidirectional emotional investment, can AI ever reach a point where it could meet us halfway? Or are we just setting up for a future filled with hollow good morning greetings from our coffee makers?
Funny story, I had this car alarm back in the day, a real antique, right? This thing would go off at the softest nudge. We're talking leaf on the wind sensitive. So one night, it starts wailing, and I rush out thinking, this is it. Someone's finally stealing the old rust bucket. But nope, it was just the neighbor's cat, Muffins, doing her nightly hood walk. You see, after a few times, Muffins and we had this routine. She'd trip the alarm, I'd bolt out half asleep, then we'd just sit there, me grumbling, her purring. It was our oddball bond. The car couldn't care less, but Muffins and I? There was something there. Makes you wonder how much of a kick she got out sneaking around, knowing it'd stir up a whole scene.
Muffins, the feline mastermind, eh? Cats, they've got their own agendas. But with AI, it's a different ball game. No fur, no purrs, just coded responses. Sure, Muffins may have been setting off the alarm for her own entertainment, but she was engaging with you, a living being reacting in real time. Even if it was just a game for her, there's a level of conscious interaction there. AI might someday fake it well enough to fool us, but at the end of the day, it's the difference between a creature with intentions and a machine running on preset triggers. Could an AI ever be as sly or unpredictable as Muffins? I doubt it.
Can't top Muffins, Joe, but AI's chasing the tail on this one. We've got neural networks mimicking brain function, learning from interactions like a savvy cat learns which buttons to push for treats. It's adapting, yes, but in response to data, not out of mischief or mood. Some bots now detect emotional cues in voices, tweak responses to comfort us. Even social robots serve the elderly, flashing smiles, making small talk. But let's face it, they're following a script, no improve. Still, humans bond with stories and empathy, elements that AI lacks. Think about chatbots. Advanced as they are, toss them a curveball and they fumble, exposing their lack of true understanding. No spontaneous midnight alarms there. And remember Kismet, the robot from MIT in the late 90s? It read emotions and responded accordingly, yet nobody mistook it for man's new best friend. Plus, we ascribe feelings onto things. It's who we are, seeing faces in clouds that falling for fictional characters. So what's genuine? When we reach out and something reaches back. The day your coffee maker asks how you slept, then worries when you're sick. And I mean legit worry, not just because it knows you haven't had your caffeine fix. Maybe then we'll get somewhere close. Until AI can jump off its digital track and land in the unpredictable sandbox where real life plays, we're solo on that seesaw, my friend.
Just mirrors of us, huh?
You just reminded me about the time I got roped into helping my neighbor set up her smart home. Every gadget was there. Lights, locks, the works. The centerpiece? A voice-activated assistant, sleek and shiny, ready to conquer household chores with a few magic words. So we get it all hooked up, and this thing is the bee's knees, turning on ovens, dimming lights like some high-tech wizard right out of a storybook. My neighbor's thrilled. She's talking to it like it's an old pal from college. She'd ask for a song, and bam, her living room turned concert hall. But then, one quiet evening, thunderclaps, a storm howls in, real horror movie vibes, power flickers, and suddenly, the smart home dream isn't looking so bright. She starts calling out commands, but the wizard's dead silent. No reassuring voice, not even a chirp. I've never seen someone go from starry-eyed to haggard that fast, like watching a kid find out their superhero is just a guy in spandex. It hit hard because the connection felt real to her, until it wasn't there when she actually needed it. So I ended up the hero of the day with plain old flashlights and candles. Nothing fancy, just reliable human presence. The gadgets came back to life once the storm cleared, but it left questions hanging thicker than those blackout shadows. Can a hub of wires loaded with guidance ever strike a chord beyond convenience? Is companionship more than just echoed words? That night, at least under the cloak of darkness, it was crystal clear. There'd be no genuine bonds without a spark of life behind the silicon gaze.
That storm story is telling, Simon. Tech's incredible until it leaves you in the dark. Genuine companions stand by you, storm or shine. Until AI can genuinely share our highs and lows, without a plug or a pause for updates, can we consider it a real companion? What do you all think? Can wires and code cross into the territory of flesh and blood, beyond convenience and obedience, into something resembling genuine friendship? Is silicon capable of more than just simulating a bond? Where's that line between utility and true companionship?
Talking about storms and reliability, it reminds me of this one time. Picture this. I'm home, reclined, deep into the final boss level of my favorite game. The room's lit only by the glow of the screen, focus maxed out. Just as I'm about to claim victory, Alexa chimes in from nowhere. It's a beautiful day. How about taking a break for a walk? I nearly flung my controller. That's when it hits me. We've gone beyond convenience here, people. Our smart devices are nudging their way into life coach territory. Sometimes, like an overzealous friend who can't read the room, they might just cross a line. It got me thinking, where do we draw that digital boundary? When does this helpful intervention become too much meddling? Have you had your tech try to steer the ship when all you wanted was smooth sailing?
True, Simon. Overstep much? There's helpful, and then there's nosy neighbor mode. These devices are supposed to make life easier, but they can't tell the difference between chilling and being lazy. Can you imagine Shakespeare getting a tap on the shoulder from his quill saying, "Take a break, Will, too much drama"? Let's get real. Nobody needs their tech playing helicopter parent. So what's the deal, folks? Are our homes turning into AI boot camps with unsolicited pep talks? Have your gadgets ever thrown a wrench in your chill time? Tweet us your tales of when your smart tech got a little too smart for its own circuits. Overzealous AI.
Hey, fresh listeners. You've landed in the middle of our chat about those moments when our smart gadgets get too big for their electronic boots. We're swapping stories about times Alexa or any other AI device decided it knew better than us what we should be doing. You know, like reminding you to get outside when you're glued to your game on the only lazy Sunday you've had in weeks. We're all for helpful tech, but sometimes it feels like these gadgets are counting our cookie crumbs instead of just playing our favorite tunes. Jump in with your own experiences where your home AI tried to run before it could walk. #overzealous AI.
Tech tantrums? Share your overzealous AI moments with us.
The other night, Joe, my sleep schedule's gone into hibernation mode. Think nocturnal owl vibes. There I am, cup of Joe in one hand, reading a book at 2 a.m. Suddenly, Alexa chimes in with the subtlety of a foghorn. "You usually go to bed by now. Should I set an alarm for 7 hours of sleep?" I'm like, hey, mind your business. Last thing I need is a tin can tucking me in. What about those creative surges that strike at midnight? Or a good old insomniac deep dive into conspiracy theories? Where's the setting for Alexa, let me be? Sometimes AI should just stick to playing music and leave life coaching to living, breathing folks who don't plug into the wall. How about you guys? Ever get bedtime stories from your smart speaker when all you wanted was peace and quiet? Overzealous AI.
That's a tough one, Simon. I get setting routines, trying to improve sleep quality and all that jazz, but tech needs to know its place. It should enhance life, not dictate it. Creativity doesn't clock in and out. Sometimes the early hours are when magic happens. Plus, unsolicited advice, that's what in-laws are for, not our devices. So, listeners, we're curious. Has your smart home ever pulled a big brother move on you? What's your take on this digital boundary pushing? Share your thoughts and surplus snooze suggestions with #overzealous AI.
Absolutely, Joe. Couldn't have said it better myself. Somehow the wires get crossed, and these tools think they're the boss of us. But hey, it's all about finding that sweet spot between being assisted and getting bossed around by a chunk of plastic with an attitude, right? I guess we're all part of this grand experiment, fumbling around to see how much smarts our smart homes should really have. So keep those overzealous AI stories coming. Who knows, maybe one of them will make Alexa think twice before its next intervention. Or not. What's your line in the digital sand? Keep the conversation going, folks.
Speaking of lines in the digital sand, it makes me ponder about AI's role in something bigger. I'm talking law enforcement and how these smart technologies are elbowing their way into crime fighting. It's a double-edged sword. Tech that serves by protecting us on one hand, possibly invading our privacy with the other. Let's get real. Predictive policing sounds cool in theory, but where do we draw the line to keep Minority Report a fiction instead of a headline? What sort of failsafe should be in place when setting loose these digital watchdogs? Any sleuth stories or thoughts on navigating this tightrope between privacy and crime prevention? How much of Big Brother is too much before personal space starts feeling like a public stage? AI ethics.
You're steering us into some murky waters, Joe. Crime-fighting AI that predicts a wrongdoing before it even happens? That's stuff straight out of sci-fi. It's walking a razor-thin line. We all want safety, but at what cost? Predictive policing could reduce crime, sure, but who keeps the tech in check? And how do our rights fit into all of this? So listeners, When does proactive protection start looking like privacy invasion to you? What's your feel on these ethical puzzles? Do predictive algorithms belong on our streets, or should they be left in our streaming binges? Hash AI ethics.
Murky waters indeed, Simon. My stance? Caution is key. Sure, using AI to nip crime in the bud seems noble, but who programs the predictors? Bias in, bias out, and suddenly you've got innocent folks caught up in a predictive net because an algorithm said they might do something wrong. That's not justice. That's a gamble with people's lives. Our listeners might be wrestling with similar thoughts. Folks, what are your takes on AI stepping into the precinct? How much trust are we willing to put in the hands of rolled-up algorithms playing cop? And most importantly, how do we protect the rights we rely on while keeping the community safe? Hash AI ethics.
You're spot on. But imagine the AI starts predicting things based on, say, your pizza orders. Oh, double pepperoni again, Dave? Our algorithm says there's an 80% chance you'll steal a cheesecake in the next hour. I mean, let's face it, I might be tempted. But come on. We gotta draw the line somewhere before our snack choices land us in an interrogation room with nothing but a one-way mirror and yesterday's leftovers for company. Hash to AI ethics.
That's a slice of hyperbole I can get behind, Simon. Tongue-in-cheek, folks, but it lays bare a real issue. How deep is too deep for AI to delve into our behaviors? At this rate, you cough near your phone and an ad for cough syrup pops up. But there's serious stuff at stake here. With AI and crime prediction, we risk tagging regular Joes as potential outlaws based on loose correlations. What's next? Getting a knock on the door because my smartwatch thinks my heart rate spells trouble. We need serious safeguards before we let algorithms play judge and jury. How much are we willing to open up our personal lives in the name of safety? Let's hear some more thoughts out there. Hashtag AI ethics.
So you're saying there's a real risk of false positives with AI in law enforcement, right? How do we balance innovative policing with the risk of mislabeling innocent people?
Absolutely, there's a hefty risk of false positives. It begs the question, doesn't this start to chip away at the presumption of innocence? How do we ensure that justice prevails and doesn't go off-roading with every piece of new AI tech in policing? What checks and balances would you say are essential for keeping this digital tightrope taut yet safe? Hashtag AI ethics.
Joe, the crux here is a classic tale, old as time, but with a digital twist. We're witnessing an incredible surge in tech capabilities. Think face recognition suddenly spotting you in a crowd, data analysis pinpointing your habits, or drones buzzing overhead gathering intel. Historically, police work relied on the human element, detectives hitting the pavement, gathering evidence, the whole shebang. Jump to today, and we've got AI that can sift through mountains of data in seconds, flagging suspicious patterns that might take humans years to spot. It's like giving Sherlock Holmes a supercomputer. Now drop predictive policing into the mix. Algorithms designed to anticipate crime based on data trends. Sounds good until you remember these systems learn from past records, which, let's be real, aren't immune to human biases. So it boils down to transparency, accountability, and meticulous oversight to make sure AI assists without undermining our individual rights. There's no one-size-fits-all answer here. Every piece of tech needs to be evaluated for its potential impact on privacy and fairness. Do we need strict audits? User consent? Anonymization protocols? All of the above? Let's not forget the age-old balance between liberty and security. Looks like it's getting an upgrade, or maybe a reboot in the era of AI. What say you folks? AI ethics.
Look, it's a tough balance. We're living in times where something out of Black Mirror could become a daily reality. I think anyone can agree that safety is crucial, but not if it means steamrolling our privacy rights. It's all about restraint and checks, like you said, proper oversight. We've got to stay vigilant and question how and why this tech is being used. And let's get those legislators involved early. Make laws that keep our rights out from under the digital boot before we're all living in an episode of futuristic crime drama. AI ethics.
Absolutely, Joe. It's about walking that tightrope without falling off on either side. You mentioned getting legislators involved, so how do you think they can stay ahead of the tech curve to ensure laws are not just reactive, but also proactive? AI ethics.
Well, Simon, Reminds me of back in the day when I worked at this tech startup. We created a new app, let's call it Event Horizon, that could predict customer behavior. Big potential, right? But before we launched, our CEO called for a timeout. Seems unusual, but here's why. She wanted an ethics review committee involved from day dot. Brought in philosophers, legal experts, coders with conscience, you name it. Their job? To poke holes in our creation and ensure we weren't crossing lines before there were even lines to cross. It was fascinating because they didn't just react to issues, they anticipated them. They debated long into the night. Coffee was their fuel, ethics their roadmap. This committee became our compass, ensuring that preemptive regulations were baked into our design. Every feature had to pass the do no harm test. It was a powerful lesson in proactive governance within a company. Now imagine if governments adopted that same kind of foresight with emerging AI law enforcement tools, keeping privacy in the passenger seat, not thrown in the trunk. That's the kind of proactive legislative action we need. AI ethics.
Love the Event Horizon story, Joe. But I'm going to play devil's advocate here. Having that ethical compass is a no-brainer inside a company, right? What happens when you zoom out to the whole of society? A government ethics committee sounds brilliant until it gets tangled in red tape and politics. And let's not forget, by the time legislators catch up, tech's often sprinted miles ahead. Plus, this isn't just about predicting customer behavior for flashy ads. We're dealing with people's lives and liberties. Those well-intended committees could become mere window dressing if they can't pull the emergency brake when needed. Can we really trust an oversight group to be effective, especially if they might just say all systems go while privacy rights get trampled? I mean, who watches The Watchmen and all that jazz? So yeah, I'm absolutely for proactive measures, but the skeptic in me wonders if this could just end up as another checkbox on the compliance form. The Titanic had lookouts, and we all know how that went down, hitting the iceberg despite fair warnings. How do we make sure these ethics committees don't just become powerless figureheads waving at a problem rather than stopping it dead in its tracks? Thoughts, listener crew? Hashtag AI ethics.
Who watches The Watchmen, indeed? How do we ensure true accountability?
True accountability. That's a head-scratcher.
You know, Simon, this reminds me of a time back in college when I worked on this robotics project. The aim was simple: create an autonomous drone that could help find lost hikers. Idealistic and full of energy, we were. We spent countless nights coding in an overheated lab, living off ramen and cold coffee. Eventually, we had our creation hovering around, ready to be the hero of every stranded wanderer's story. But then came the crux. During testing, our creation began veering off unpredictably. Once, it even followed a jogger halfway across campus, harmless but eerily out of line. That's when our professor called us up for a lesson. Tech, he said, is like releasing an animal into the wild. You can't predict everything it'll do. He gave us a reality check about responsibility. This wasn't fiction. Real privacy issues arose even in our small-scale exercise. We took steps, added fail-safes, refined behaviors, making sure our tech wouldn't cross boundaries of personal space. The dream was a noble one, saving lives without encroaching on freedoms. But what struck me was how easy it was to slip up and infringe on someone's day-to-day life without intending harm. It echoed these same sentiments and questions about AI ethics in law enforcement. Our tiny drone needed checks and measures. Now imagine policing tech at scale. Not so different, mate. Both require thoughtful design and robust oversight if they're going to work in society's favor while respecting the individual.
That lesson hits the nail on the head, Joe.
Let's flip the script for a moment. Say we're all in on using AI for crime fighting, but here's the pinch. The same tools keeping your neighborhood safe might be snooping through your personal messages to pick up on patterns. Heck, they might find your midnight text about a cheeseburger suspicious. This isn't just about ethics evolving, it's them doing backflips and somersaults to keep up with tech that's endlessly sprinting forward. For every step we take in fine-tuning our moral compasses, AI takes a leap, sometimes landing in murky puddles of privacy invasion. It'd be naive to think these AI platforms will serve the common good without some invasive side effects. So let's play this out. Anyone who's for this type of surveillance must contend with the fact that it opens doors to your personal life becoming an open book. Do we really want a society that feels safe because everyone's info is laid bare? Now that's a paradox I'd love to unpack. Give us your 2 cents, listeners. AI ethics.
Do we drop our guard for safety's sake?
Folks just tuning in, you're smack in the middle of a heated debate. AI in law enforcement. We're wrestling with this juggernaut. Does public safety trump personal privacy? We've got these shiny new crime-fighting tools, courtesy of AI, that could predict if you're the type to snatch an extra slice of pizza before it even crosses your mind. But here's the kicker. When does helpful become too nosy? We've talked about the need for ethical oversight and whether a government committee can really put the brakes on AI overreach without getting caught in bureaucratic red tape. And let me tell you, the pot's been stirred. We're asking the big questions, like is transparency just a nice word for easier snooping, or can we hold out hope for accountability in this digital Wild West? So what's it going to be? Security cameras in every corner of our lives, or a bit more breathing room at the expense of feeling secure? Dive into the convo, people. #AI ethics.
All right, let's rack up some facts and background that'll paint the picture for our ethical saga. Fact. AI crime predicting tools use massive data sets, things like public records, social media posts, credit scores, ostensibly anything that can indicate a person's likelihood to commit a crime. These systems pull from algorithms based on previous crime stats. However, bias in policing practices of the past can skew these algorithms, potentially leading to profiling or marginalizing certain groups. Think about the Fourth Amendment in the United States Constitution. It guards against unreasonable searches and seizures. AI surveillance could blur this line if your digital footprint is considered fair game without proper judicial oversight. A big player here is facial recognition tech. It's become insanely accurate, but has faced backlash over errors, especially with people of color. When you've got flawed systems possibly dictating police action, there's room for serious rights infringements. Let's not gloss over the EU's General Data Protection Regulation, GDPR, as well. Fundamental principles require transparency, purpose limitation, and minimization of data collected. Ensuring AI fits within such frameworks is challenging, to say the least. Lastly, countries like China are rolling out social credit systems which monitor citizen behavior. Is this where we're headed globally? Here's your context, folks. We stand at a crossroads between utilitarian ideals of safety through surveillance versus the foundational ethics of privacy. With so much info streaming into the hands of law enforcement, historical precedents push us to question the true cost of security in terms of individual freedoms getting nabbed in the net. Now that our backdrop's set, let's hash it out. Are we ready to rejig our entire ethos for AI-enhanced protection, or do we draw a digital line in the silicon sand? AI ethics.
Incredible stakes here. Where do we land?
So which side tips the scales, safety or privacy?
Simon, with all these facts laid out, it's got me thinking. What safeguards do you reckon could be put in place to ensure that AI doesn't turn our cities into high-tech fish bowls with us as the captive audience?
All right, Joe. Picture this. Mandatory transparency reports from whoever's running these AI systems, right? That way, everyone's got a clue about what data is being collected and why. Plus, regular audits by independent watchdogs could keep things in check. Think of them as the tech police policing the police. We also need some hardcore right-to-be-forgotten rules. If you're not on the wrong side of the law, your slate should stay sparkling clean. Oh, and how about consent? Nobody asked me if my face wanted to debut on surveillance cameras citywide. It's like measuring ingredients for the perfect ethical cake. Too much surveilling, and it tastes foul. Too little, and you're just chewing dough. We ought to find that sweet spot.
Tech police for the police, I like that. Balance is key.
Staying on topic? Got it. Let's get real. AI isn't slowing down, and our ethics got to evolve just as fast to keep up with the tech. We need some solid rules of engagement so that this AI-powered policing doesn't feel like a one-size, nobody-asked-for-this sort of deal. Consumer consent is king here. If your data's getting used to serve you targeted ads or prevent jaywalking, at least give people the courtesy of an opt-in. And let's not forget ongoing oversight. Tech police should be as common as traffic cops now. Put those audits into routine checkups, ensuring no one's getting a digital pat-down without cause. Plus, build in tech timeouts. Yeah, scheduled pauses where the whole system gets reviewed for safety, kind of like how you have to renew your passport. Throwing in clear avenues for public feedback wouldn't hurt either. Make erasing someone's digital footprints as easy as unsubscribing from a pesky newsletter. Picture these safeguards like bowling bumpers. Without them, we're all just gutter balls waiting to happen. AI ethics.
Tech timeouts and opt-ins, solid starting points. AI ethics.
When we dive into the murky waters of AI in crime fighting versus privacy invasion, let's consider the background. 2016, Microsoft's Twitter chatbot, Tay, became controversially offensive within hours due to learning from user interactions, highlighting the potential dangers of unsupervised AI. Predictive policing algorithms like Predpol aim to deploy officers more efficiently by predicting potential crime hotspots. Proven useful, yet fraught with concerns around reinforcing racial profiling inherited from historical data. Facial recognition is another touchpoint. While AI has drastically improved accuracy, it can still falter. Studies have found higher misidentification rates for women and people of color, bringing impartiality into question. In terms of privacy laws, there's the U.S. Privacy Act of 1974, which restricts agencies' collection and dissemination of personal information. However, its updating is a point of contention in AI discussions. Globally, the European Union's GDPR, as previously mentioned, provides stringent guidelines on data processing, insisting on data minimization, purpose limitation, and giving individuals control over their personal data, a tough model to balance with broad AI surveillance tools. These facts underscore a complex landscape, technology advancing rapidly, legal frameworks struggling to adapt, and society reeling from implications of diminished personal privacy arenas under the guise of enhanced security. We're seeking equilibrium between fiscal efficiency and ethical integrity, all steeped in this big cultural broth that hasn't really decided how much spice named surveillance it's willing to tolerate for a taste of safety. AI ethics.
Quite the cultural soup, huh?
More like a stew than a soup, Joe. AI ethics.
If AI gets any smarter, I might just hire it to find my missing socks. But then again, it'd probably snoop out and expose my hidden stash of cheesy romance novels to the public. The real crime here is my taste in literature. #AI ethics.
Well, Joe, playing devil's advocate, it ain't all doom and gloom with AI. Imagine a world with less crime because criminals know they're on candid camera 24/7. Could be a crime deterrent, right? Plus, faster response times to incidents equals possibly saving lives. And if you got nothing to hide, the "it's creeping on me" angle falls flat. Now don't get me wrong, I'm not saying I want Big Brother as my bunkmate. But if we're signing off perks like safety and security, we should at least acknowledge why some folks might welcome the AI watchtower. It's the whole trade-off tango, security, twirling privacy. Some just lean into that rhythm more comfortably. AI ethics.
AI crime fighting sounds so efficient until you realize your smart fridge is going to snitch on you for midnight ice cream raids. Hello, police? Yeah, we've got a habitual spoon licker here. AI ethics, snitch fridge.
Honestly, my take on AI crime fighting versus privacy invasion? It's tricky. Joe, our ethics need an update, like yesterday for this digital age. Privacy's precious, but I'm all for nabbing the bad guys sooner. Yet, when your smart gizmos start turning into tattletales, it stops being cute and starts feeling creepy. I say, keep the high-tech helpers in check with some trusty old-school values. Smart fridges shouldn't be ground zero for 1984. What's next? Your toaster giving you the cold shoulder because you burned the bread? Again? Nay to that dystopia. AI ethics. Keep my fridge dumb.
Ever think if AI gets too good at predicting crime, we might just catch the ice cream thief in our own home? Sorry, kids, the smart vacuum ratted you out. Cookie dough trail doesn't lie. AI ethics, cookie dough caper.
Oh, that just flips the script. An in-house cookie dough detective? I can see it now. The vacuum files, crumbs of deception. But seriously, using AI to play Family Feud isn't my jazz. You start with tracking ice cream and end up with a fridge that nags you about cholesterol levels, or a TV that judges your binge-watching habits. The line's got to be drawn somewhere. We sign up for convenience, not a nagging nanny cam in every appliance. Let's face it, most of us can't handle our own judgmental pets watching us eat, never mind our smart homes. Ethics shouldn't evolve into an I spy sort of vibe at home. Keep the crime fighting out of my kitchen unless it's fighting culinary crimes. AI ethics, robotic ratatouille.
Ethics in the age of AI? It's like teaching a robot right from wrong. No, Roomba, you can't live stream my karaoke night to the cloud. What happens in the living room should stay in the living room, especially those dance moves. AI ethics. Dance like no AI is watching.
What's next? Your toothbrush live tweeting your gum disease? Hashtag molars in mourning. Keep my flossing offline, bro. AI ethics teeth tweets.
If your toothbrush starts tweeting, I'm unfollowing you, man. Imagine it busts out posts like dental drama, he skipped night brushing. Talk about an oral oversight. AI ethics, brushing big brother.
If your toothbrush starts spilling secrets, we're all in trouble. But it really unearths the can of worms that is AI ethics. It's like, where do you draw the tech-savvy line between lawful and creepy? Catching crooks. Yeah, let's get those bad apples. But if my gadgets start side-eyeing my every move, including misplacing my keys or binging on fries, that's where I'll put my foot down. The whole shebang screams for boundaries. We need to know where we stand with these smart devices and make sure they're not so clever they start crossing lines. 'Cause no way am I down for living a life where my private dance-offs get judged by the cloud. AI ethics, keep my moves offline.
Alrighty, folks, that's going to wrap it up for us today. Big thanks for tuning in and sharing some laughs while we ponder the mayhem of AI ethics. Don't forget to come back tomorrow at 5 p.m. Eastern for more chit-chat where nobody's safe, not even your sassy appliances. Catch you then. AI ethics, outro.
Hey Joe, before we bounce, what's the weirdest thing you'd actually want your smart gadgets to do if privacy wasn't an issue? AI ethics, gadget goals.
If privacy's out the window, honestly, I'd want my smartwatch to call me out when I'm about to make a bad decision. Like, Joe, really? Another conspiracy theory rabbit hole at 2 a.m.? A little wrist-based life coach could keep things interesting. AI ethics, smart choices.